Most people who dream about riding never make it past the beginning. They get a bike, they get excited, they imagine freedom on the open road, and then reality hits them harder than the pavement ever could. Within weeks, sometimes even days, they quit. They walk away from the dream they thought they wanted, and worse, they convince themselves that riding just isn't for them. But here's the truth. It's not the bike that fails. It's not the lifestyle that's wrong. It's them. Or more specifically, it's the way they started. See, riding a motorcycle isn't just about twisting the throttle and balancing two wheels. It's about rewiring the way your brain deals with risk, control, and fear. Most new riders never do that. They jump in thinking it's going to feel like a video game, fast, fun, and easy. And the moment it demands discipline, patience, or humility, they panic. They start doubting themselves. And doubt is a cancer for riders. It grows quickly until the only option they see is to sell the bike, hang up the helmet, and tell themselves some comforting lie like, "At least I tried." But here's what they never admit. They didn't quit because motorcycles are dangerous, or expensive, or impractical. They quit because they lacked the mindset. They lacked the patience to build real skill. They lacked the courage to go through the awkward, embarrassing, uncomfortable phase that every single good rider had to endure. And because of that weakness, they'll never know what it feels like to flow through traffic like water, or carve a corner with perfect control, or feel the addictive calm that only comes when man and machine move as one. Now, this is where you're different, because you're here, right now, listening to this, which means you haven't quit yet, which means you're still hungry, and that hunger is your weapon. But hunger alone isn't enough. You need to understand why most new riders drop off so fast, and how to avoid the traps that kill their passion before it even has a chance to grow. If you don't, you'll end up like them, another lost rider, another person who once had a dream but couldn't hold on to it. So, pay attention, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to expose the exact reasons most beginners fail, the hidden forces that push them off the road before they've even begun. And more importantly, I'll show you how to hardwire your mind so you never fall into that same trap. By the time we're done, you'll see quitting as the weak choice it really is, and riding as the unstoppable path it was always meant to be. 1. The illusion of speed versus the reality of skill. Most new riders quit because they confuse adrenaline with mastery. They hop on the bike chasing that rush of acceleration, the fantasy of looking cool, of feeling like a movie character flying through the streets. And for a few rides, it works. They feel powerful. But then reality arrives, stalling at traffic lights, wobbling on turns, panicking in traffic. Suddenly, the thrill is gone, replaced by fear and frustration. And that's when most riders give up. But here's the manipulation they don't see. The system tricks beginners into chasing speed first, because speed feels good instantly. Yet true riding isn't about speed, it's about control. Anyone can twist the throttle. It takes discipline to stop cleanly, lean confidently, or maneuver through chaos. And this is why so many quit. They never learned that riding is 80% mental discipline and only 20% physical action. If you understand this early, you weaponize patience. You stop chasing that fake high of going fast, and you start chasing skill. And skill is addictive, because every small improvement multiplies your confidence. The moment you internalize this, you separate yourself from the herd of quitters. 2. The fear factor that eats riders. A live fear is the biggest killer of new riders. Not accidents, not expenses, but fear itself. Fear of crashing, fear of embarrassment, fear of looking like a fool in front of cars, in front of friends, even in front of strangers at a stoplight. They pretend they're brave, but inside, they're already negotiating with themselves. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should sell the bike. And here's the twisted truth. Fear isn't your enemy. It's your compass. Fear points directly at the skills you must develop. Scared of leaning into corners? That means your balance and countersteering are weak. Afraid of highway traffic? That means your awareness isn't sharp enough. Nervous about braking? That means you haven't drilled it enough to make it instinct. The riders who quit let fear control them. The riders who last use fear as a map. If you can brainwash yourself into viewing every fear as a flashing sign that says, "Train here," then fear becomes your fuel, and the very thing that destroys others will become the force that hardens you into a real rider. 3. The ego trap that breaks beginners. Most people don't quit because riding is too hard. They quit because their ego can't handle being bad at something. Think about it. How many new riders secretly believe they'll be a natural? They imagine smooth takeoffs, perfect shifts, cornering like a pro, because their brain has tricked them into thinking skill comes free just because they want it badly. Then reality humiliates them. They stall in front of a crowd. They tip over in a parking lot. They fumble gear shifts. Their ego takes a hit, and instead of embracing that humiliation as fuel to grow, they retreat. They tell themselves the bike is too heavy, or too impractical, or not worth the risk. Lies. It wasn't the bike. It was their fragile ego. You need to kill that ego early. Every mistake is not a failure. It's a brick in the wall of mastery. If you can reprogram your mind to crave mistakes, because mistakes are proof of progress, you'll transform faster than 90% of beginners. And once the ego dies, skill takes over. That's why the riders who last are humble. They're willing to look like fools today so they can ride like monsters tomorrow. The discipline divide. Why the weak? Dropout. Here's the final and most brutal truth. Riding isn't about passion. Passion fades. Adrenaline fades. Even excitement fades. What doesn't fade is discipline. The discipline to practice clutch control in an empty lot when no one's watching. The discipline to ride cautiously when your friends are showing off. The discipline to keep learning long after the new bike smell is gone. Most riders quit because they wanted fun, not discipline. But fun doesn't build mastery. Discipline does. That's why so many drop out after a few months. The honeymoon phase ends, and they realize riding demands responsibility. The bills for gear, the routine of maintenance, the mental effort of awareness. It's too much for the lazy-minded. But if you flip the script in your head, discipline becomes your edge. You stop thinking of practice as a chore and start thinking of it as sharpening a weapon. Yourself. Every drill, every cautious ride, every small lesson compounds into total control. And when you build that control, you enter a state most beginners never reach. Effortless flow. That's the point where riding is no longer a struggle. It's freedom. So when you see people quit early, don't pity them. They weren't strong enough. They couldn't overcome their illusions, their fears, their fragile ego, or their lack of discipline. But you know better now. And knowing is power. Because from this point forward, every ride you take, every mistake you make, every ounce of fear you feel, it all becomes fuel for the one outcome that quitters will never touch: mastery. And here's the harsh truth. Most people watching this right now are going to do absolutely nothing. They'll nod, they'll agree, maybe even feel a little fired up. But the moment the video ends, they'll slip right back into the same mindset that kills riders. They'll let fear, ego, or laziness win. And in a few months, there'll be another statistic. A bike gathering dust in the garage, another dream abandoned. But a few of you, a very small percentage, are different. You're the ones who will take what I said and actually apply it. You'll be the ones still riding years from now, while others are just telling stories about that time I used to ride. And honestly, I want to know which one you are. So tell me in the comments, are you going to be the rider who quits early or the rider who outlasts everyone else? Be honest. And if you've already been through that quitting phase and came back stronger, drop your story down there. I guarantee it'll hit someone harder than anything I just said. Because in the end, riders don't just ride for themselves. We ride to prove who we really are. So, Who are you?